I'm Chef Daniella Malfitano. I'll take you from the crop to the kitchen to highlight the local farms, ranches, vineyards, orchards, markets, and more right in your backyard. Join me as I uncover the delicious discoveries of your culinary community.
Hello and welcome to Delicious Discoveries. I'm your host, Daniella Malfitano. Today we have a real treat for our viewers. This is not an episode of Fear Factor. You are on the right station. Today we're visiting Oliveras Honeybees Incorporated in Orland, California. And we're joined by Craig Silvano, who's been dealing with these fascinating creatures for about 5 years, right?
Hello, Chef. Yes,
Hi.
I have been.
Thanks so much for having us here today.
You're welcome.
I'm really excited to get out into the field and see what these bees are all about, but I have to admit to you, I'm very nervous about this. I've had a fear of bees for a long time, so if you can give me some tips on how to stay cool, calm, and collected, and how to get up close and personal with these bees, I'd really appreciate your tips.
The best thing is be yourself. Try to be calm. It's easy for me to say. I've been working with them for several years, and then the novice person comes up, and first thing you want to do is turn and run.
There's a bee on me, I think.
Yes, there is. Or the other thing is people swat at bees, thinking that I'll swat it and it'll go away. But that actually scares the bee worse than what it is, and it will protect itself and sting you. A lot of people are allergic to bees. Most people are not. They have a normal reaction to a bee sting.
Right, and I have to know, how many times have you been stung?
That's a magic number that I can't really tell you. The most I've been stung was about 200 times in one day. And almost every day I get stung 5, 10, 15 times. It's kind of like it goes with the territory.
Right, so the trick is to stay calm,
Biggest
show
thing
no
is
fear.
Stay calm and show no fear, because they can sense it.
Right.
And don't start swatting at it like you would a fly.
Okay, well listen, we can't be any more protected than we already are, so let's get started.
That sounds great. Let's go. What we have here is Guadalupe checking this nook for a queen. She's pulling out each individual small hive, looking for her.
So sometimes she'll have to go through a couple to find the queen bee, or maybe the whole
Correct.
thing. Okay.
Okay, this particular nook here, the queen has either died or has flown off and is not producing any new larvae.
Okay. So let's go find her at the next one.
Okay, this particular frame that she's pulled out, there's a lot of eggs, or what's commonly called brood. The brood is the larva for the next generation. Because you have brood, you have probably a live, viable queen in there.
Oh, I think we found her. Maybe. Right there. Wow. So her body is a little bit bigger than the rest. I don't know if you can see here. We don't want her to fly away, because Guadalupe what she's going to do now is simply pick it up using her bare hands and capture her and put her in a little capsule. So we'll watch her do that.
The capsules we call cages.
Cages.
That's basically what they are.
Exactly.
It's just a real simple cage with a cork on the end. Sometimes the cager gets stung. How many times have you been stung today, Guadalupe?
Today, just one.
Just one today.
Just one today.
Which 5 minutes ago I asked her the same question and she said, none today.
How neat.
Now this queen is ready to be stored until she's going to be sold, which could be later today to a week from now.
So the queen bee has sort of a fascinating life. I want to talk a little bit about that. They are taken care of by the worker bees. The worker bees collect their food and clean up after them.
Correct.
But what about, talk to us just about how they're taken
The best
care
way to relate to a beehive is every hive is a country. Every country has a leader, which is a queen bee. And then from there they have servants that do all their house cleaning, collect their food, and stuff like that. And the worker bees are the ones that collect the food and actually clean the hive. And help feed the queen and just take care of things.
So Craig, tell me where we're standing now. What are these things right in front of us?
Well, Chef, this is a typical hive. Each one of these boxes here is a typical hive. It houses one queen and anywhere from 5 to 10,000, if not more, worker bees inside.
So one queen to the ratio of 10,000.
I would say 10,000 minimum.
10,000
That would be
worker
considered
bees.
a fairly weak hive.
Wow, unbelievable. So you can open up one now.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open up one of the hives here, and I'll pull out a few frames, and if we find the queen, we'll point her out, and I'll show you what brood is. Brood is basically the next generation of bees, meaning that they're tomorrow's babies,
Right,
which
okay.
are actually full grown when they're hatched. Anyway, we typically use a smoker burning some type of material, usually burlap, to create a smoke. The smoke will calm the bees down, so you want to make sure you smoke up your hive real good. Down here at the bottom is your door. And I'm using a hive tool here to pry open the lid.
Because it's stuck with wax.
It's stuck with wax and other matter.
Ooh, wow, yeah, calm them down. Yeah, they just kind of, wow. Hey, spray a little on that on me. So is it they smell it or they feel it?
A little of both.
Okay, I see the queen.
Nope,
Right here?
this is a boy bee.
A boy bee.
Okay, what the chef here has pointed out to everyone is a drone bee.
And it sort of looks big like the queen, but he's corrected me, that's called a boy bee,
Which is the technical term is a drone.
a drone.
He does nothing in the hive other than he mates with the queen. Because we have a live queen in here that's already been mated, he has no purpose in the hive other than to be there. And here's another one here. And if you notice how the size difference,
Yeah, they're bigger.
this here is larva, commonly it's known as brood. The white is larva in its very infancy stages.
How neat. So the white inside, deep inside there is the larva, and then once it's been covered up, that's
And
called
then towards the end of its gestation period, the worker bees will cover them, kind of like an incubation time.
incubator, yes.
And then the worker bee will be hatched, fully grown, ready to go to work. The eggs that the queen lays today is a new generation, which in approximately 18 days they'll hatch. They live for about 45 days. During that time, they know exactly what to do every day of their life. They start out as nurse bees to take care of newborns. I call them newborns, they're new hatched. And then on their 3rd, 5th day, they start to become gatherers and scouts for future honey makers. And then they become guard bees because every country, as I had mentioned before, needs people to protect it. Actually, this is a honey frame.
Oh, it is, okay.
This is all honey that's in here. And if I peel back some of the protective coating, you can see the shininess of the honey.
Mm-hmm.
Honey is actually like nuts to a squirrel. The bees store the honey, make it all summer long and store it for the winter.
Wow.
The honey is the bees' food for the winter.
Uh-huh. So Craig, open up this hive and show us what this bee dance is all about.
I will do my best to show you the dance here. The bee dance has several purposes. One, it's a warning device to the other bees that there's danger. And then also they do the dance to let the other bees know where the flowers are, how far away, where to make the right and left turns. As you smoke the bees, sometimes you get them all stirred up. And you'll be able to hear,
Oh, wow.
hear the roar of their wings. Their dance is a communication between the bees. See how this one here, its tail is up?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
The more I agitate it, the more it's going to be trying to tell the people to stay away.
So Craig, let's talk about how honey is actually made.
Okay, what I've done here is I've pulled out a couple of frames out of a hive. They're not totally loaded with honey, but they do have a lot of honey that's in its raw state. What we do is, after you pull the honey out, you would uncap it. This is capped honey here, meaning that if you held it upside down, it's not going to fall out. It's sealed. And once it's sealed, honey is kind of unique. They found honey in King Tut's tomb that was still good, and that's thousands of years old. But anyway, as you can see a little bit right here, where some of it's gotten uncapped, the honey is pure honey here.
And most people don't know what honey is. It's actually the bee vomit, correct?
Yeah, it sounds very bad, but it's bee vomit. How it turns into honey is, as they digest it, they have to get rid of what they digested, and this is what they produce out. And then over time, man has discovered that they can harvest the honey out, and what we call it extraction. We extract the honey out of the hive.
And I read that it takes about a dozen bees flying to 2,000 flowers to produce a teaspoon of honey.
Correct. The number of bees is actually quite large that you have to produce in order to get that teaspoon of honey for your morning coffee or tea. A normal bee in its whole life will make just enough to cover your little fingernail.
And honeybees are known as a farmer's best friend because they're so important in the pollination of any food, plant, flower that we
Correct.
consume.
They say that if the honeybee, if it disappeared totally, that almost all plant life would end. It's that important. As an example here, this frame here is not full, but Chef, why don't you go ahead and pick up half of it, and then pick up this half.
Oh wow!
That
is heavy.
There's probably 5 pounds of weight to this one, to a few ounces over here.
So I've noticed past the beehives we have some wonderful plants and flowers, different dry grass and things like that, some star thistle over there. Talk to me about the layout of the mating yard, the soils, the plants you keep here, and why you do so.
Oliver's honeybees, we have several bee yards. We call them queen yards. And what we try to do is we try to make sure that all during the spring, summer, and fall, there's something out there in bloom. In order to make honey and the hive to survive, you have to have food for the bees, this is a good example. This is a plant here, will bloom for several months. And if you look around us, we have almond trees behind us here that they have nuts on them now, that 3 or 4 months ago, it was all flowers. You had mentioned star thistle. We have natural star thistle on the property here. Dry grass is basically, we use it as wind protection for the hives, to help cool down and keep the wind off the hives.
And then we're also standing in front of this blue piece of plastic here, and this is an artificial pollinator, right?
Correct. What it is when there's no plants to pollinate, the bees still need food, which is pollen and nectar off the flowers. We have to artificially give it to them, which is a commercially bought product that we put in there. But we call it pollen.
Craig, we're now in your packaging facility where you package the queen bees for shipping to ship off for sale. So let's talk about the different cages that you used. I noticed Guadalupe used a certain cage, and now I see 2 others. And I also want to know the difference of the different queen bees that you have here on site. I know there are 2 different kinds, but you can talk to us about all the different types of queen bees.
Yeah, the 3 types of cages that we have here is, we have what's called a plastic cage. It's commonly known as a JZBZ. That's a brand name. But you would put the queen in the bottom here, close the little door, and now you have a queen that would be ready to be installed into a new hive. If you notice at the end here, there's what we call candy, which is a sugar mixture. It takes 3 to 4 days for the bees to eat that out and the queen to eat it out, which is actually the acclimation period where the bees get used to the new queen and the new queen gets used to the bees. On the next cage is called a California mini cage. It's very similar, but it's made out of wood. Cork in the end. What we have here is we have an introduction tube, or candy tube that it's called. We would take the cork out and put this in its place and put that into a hive that was queenless. And again, it takes 3 to 4 days for the bees to eat the candy out, to get used to each other. They're all friends. The third type of cage is a 3-hole cage that we put the queen in. The candy is already inside. We put the queen in along with 5 or 6 attendants or worker bees to take care of her. These are real good for transit. On the mini cages here, we just leave her alone in there, but we put them into shipping boxes, which we're doing here, that these are ready to be shipped out. We've already put the candy tube in.
Oh yeah, they're eating it.
The new beekeeper would have to just put this in their hive and then she'll be released in a few days. Earlier I had mentioned that we have 2 different types of queens here. And what I have here are the 2 types. If you looked at them, one of them is pretty much all black. That's called a carnelian. And the other one is more of a yellowish bee. And the breed on her is Italian. The Italian bee is a friendlier bee, good honey producer, where the carnelian is a very good honey producer, and it also is real good for cold climates, Montana, Wisconsin, up in Canada and such. However, it's a little more meaner. The Italian here is a very calm bee.
Craig, thanks so much for having me here today. This was so interesting. I really enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you here.
It really has.
And if you ever need to come back and view our facility here, you're more than welcome to.
Thanks, Craig. And if visitors want to come and collect more information about OHB, they can visit your website at ohbees.com.
That is correct.
Great.
We have a huge website there for Oliveras honeybees, OHB, and then our sister company, which is Big Island Queens.
Big Island Queens. Great. Well, listen, I'll meet you right back in the kitchen. I can't wait to get back into the kitchen to make a tasty treat with these fascinating creatures we saw today.
Well, that was really, really fun. I have to admit it. I brought back a bottle of wildflower honey, and today I'm gonna show you how to cook with it. We're gonna make honey glazed sea scallops. These gorgeous sea scallops are not only delicious, but very, very easy to cook with. The only thing you really have to worry about is removing this tiny catch muscle right off the end. It's very easy to do. All right, so to pull the catch muscle, all I have to do is take my thumb and literally, with very little effort, pull it right off. That's it. This scallop is clean and ready to go. So the next thing I want to add is about 2 tablespoons of wildflower honey, and you can use clover if you have that. I'm using 2 tablespoons here, right from a honeycomb. The next thing we want to do is zest this orange, and I want to zest the whole thing and add it right to the scallop marinade. Zest is the colorful part of the citrus that has a lot of the oil in it. That's what gives this zest such a punch. That's all we want. We don't want to go any further than that. We don't want to expose any of the white. And I want to use the box orange juice for this because it has sugar and that's going to create a nice crust on our scallops. All right, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of veggie oil here. I don't want to use olive oil because the flavor is too strong. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon, and I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon here, of pepperoncini or red pepper flake.
Okay, I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt right to the bowl. And last but not least, some freshly ground black pepper. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this up. I wanna get all the marinade all over the scallops. All right, I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for an hour to let all the flavors come together. This looks fabulous. This is exactly what you want. I'm gonna take these and place them in a baking dish. Putting them pretty close together. I want these close together so that in the broiler they evenly brown and create a nice glaze evenly on all 5 of these scallops. Pour the rest of the marinade right over. Beautiful. All right, these are going right under the broiler for about 4 to 6 minutes until they develop a nice brown crust. All right, these look great. I'm gonna plate them right here on our plate. You can serve these with some sauteed string beans, very good that way, and a little crusty baguette to soak up all of the juice. It's delicious. I also wanna serve it with a couple wedges of lemon and wanna garnish it also with some fresh parsley. And then finish the dish with a little drizzle of this hot marinade. This is the honey glaze over the entire dish. Okay, I'm just gonna garnish the green beans with a couple slivered almonds. That looks great. Can't wait to take a bite. These look delicious. And they really are. The best part about this is taking parts of that bread, ripping it off, dunking it in the honey glaze. It's not only sweet, but you get a really nice heat in the back of your throat from the pepperoncinis, the chili flakes, that's to die for, that goes so well with the scallops and pairs really nicely with these sauteed green beans. Well, there you have it, folks. Another delicious discovery, and I'll see you next time. I'm using 2 tablespoons here, right from a honeycomb. Honeycomb? Honeycomb?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought it was a stutter.
No. Okay, so we have some really beautiful looking sea scallops here. Now, sea scallops are delicious. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for 1 hour. I can't say refrigerator.
Delicious Discoveries with Daniella Malfitano is made possible by Angelina Rose Productions with special thanks to Mooney Farms.